Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, on today's news, the first story is that Bungies Marathon has its first gameplay details.
It seems like a Nintendo Direct is imminent.
And Final Fantasy XVI's pre-orders are skyrocketing after one of the best received demos in gaming history. We should talk about what demos mean to the industry, because they're quite important, at least we think so. First news story, though, is about Bungies Marathon getting a whole bunch of gameplay details from Insider Gaming's Tom Henderson. And we already knew that this game was an extraction shooter. That was in its official write-up or whatever. But Henderson says the teams will consist of 3 players. Extraction shooter comparisons being Hunt Showdown, Escape from Tarkov, or Call of Duty's DMZ mode if you want to get a feel for what extraction shooter is. I don't feel like they're mainstream yet.
They're more on PC, aren't they? Like, they're getting there. Obviously, Call of Duty has one, so it's mainstream, but I feel like it's yet to break in, at least in my opinion, into the console space like Battle Royale did instantly.
Yeah, maybe this is the next Battle Royale. I guess we'll see. But yeah, so teams will consist of 3 players. You'll have limited oxygen. This also doubles as the match timer as your oxygen goes down. Then it turns into whatever's left of your health. Players can be injured, resulting in being dazed or losing oxygen even faster. There's permadeath. There's perks and various abilities, but you can lose various implants and abilities depending on how you're taken out. But it says that losing the things that you'll pick up will carry over. Bungie apparently wanted to be the ultimate live service, but they haven't really clarified what that thing is, and the report doesn't either. But they want minimal load times. And at launch, and this is one of the sticking points, they're only working on 3 maps. So that's interesting.
I'll argue isn't actually as apocalyptic as it seems, because it's an extraction shooter. These maps are going to be big, probably not as big as like a full-on Battle Royale map, but still pretty large with a lot of different zones. I imagine a lot of different biomes to explore.
You'd hope
So
so.
3 to me seems about right. If it was 2 or 1, I'd be a bit worried, but I think that's a decent amount for the genre. From at least the minimal amount that I've played of extraction shooters.
Yeah, I'm all for a condensed, focused map, biome, different ways to approach things. Bungie are legendary when it comes to map design. I just think it's interesting talking about the arc that they've had. Like, Marathon was the thing that they had back in the 90s, but it was more like a, Doom-style 2D shooter in terms of the art style, whatever. This is very much not that, at least in terms of the where we are at right now. But going into Halo, obviously changed the first-person landscape considerably. Destiny then did again. Even though Destiny 1 wasn't well received, it was a whole sort of broken mess of a thing that took ages to come back together.
Yes.
I feel like when people talk about Destiny, they really talk about Destiny 2, but it did recover, even though it was a bit of a rocky back and forth. There was some various microtransaction things, etc., but they got there. Point being, though, that both the times that Bungie have really got out there in the mainstream, Halo and Destiny, they've been massively influential, almost incomparably influential. And so I wonder, is this the next thing? Is the extraction shooter, is this the game that elevates it? And do they have enough ideas here with the oxygen timer and the injuries and like really brutal PvP/extraction experience to be the next big thing?
Well, the thing is, right, I see these details and I think, yep, that sounds like an extraction shooter. Like, these aren't necessarily unique to this game, the idea of permadeath, the idea of injuries, the idea of even the oxygen system to facilitate the need to get out of the zone and to put that pressure on you seem like classic twists on tropes from this genre. That said, I'm excited by this, Scott Telford. I really am. As someone who never really got into Destiny but could appreciate it from afar, this is more up my alley and more of my personal taste, and that's cool. And, them positioning it as the ultimate live service game. Live service as a term has such a stigma attached to it, and perhaps rightly so, because of how many bad ones there have been and how many people have abused the trust that you need to buy into a live service title. People will just put out half-finished games and then expect you to keep paying for microtransactions while they fix it in the background. And sometimes they don't even fix it or commit to their roadmap, looking at you, Anthem 2.0. But like you said, Bungie have always committed to that. They have turned around the likes of the initial Destiny. They have made Destiny 2 a phenomenon in the gaming space, and Sony even bought Bungie because of their live service expertise. So it makes sense that they now want to kind of solidify that and say, like, look, we are the best in the live service business. This is going to be our opus. Whether they pull that off initially, from the launch of Marathon, I don't know, but I do hope that it gets there eventually.
Yeah, same. I'm curious with this because the thing that I love Bungie the most for is the original Halo trilogy. I did play a hell of a lot of Destiny Destiny 1 and 2. Didn't love it. Never fully clicked with me. I was never the person who was like grinding out the legendaries and trying to get all the exotics, etc. But I have my fair share of time in Destiny. I do like a more acrobatic shooter from Bungie, and this feels a lot more grounded when it comes to the injuries and permadeath and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how they make that work in terms of what they're known for and what they're sort of getting into in terms of a more military feel or a grounded feel, boots on the ground kind of thing. Next news story, though, is the Nintendo Direct being imminent, Josh Brown.
Come on, I know you love these things, Scott Tilford. What's going on?
Well, so the thing is, hopefully, nearly every time we do a news on this, something gets announced. So I'm praying, I'm hoping, I'm crossing all the fingers and the hands, and that by just saying the words Nintendo Direct is imminent, it'll get announced, because it's about time that it did. Most Nintendo Directs are always held on a Wednesday. They tend to get announced on a Monday or a Tuesday.
And what day is it today, Scott Tilford?
It's Tuesday right now, mate. So
Tuesday.
you never know. So various leakers in regards to a Nintendo Direct have mentioned a window between today, being June 20th, and the end of the week. Like I said, Nintendo Directs are usually held on a Wednesday, so we are imminent. There are various rumors doing the rounds, and obviously pinch of salt, bucket of salt, just tip all the salt on this until it's real or not, and because the rumors are ridiculous for this Direct. One being a Chrono Trigger HD 2D remake, which sounds like a dream project. Chrono Trigger itself, one of the most legendary IPs, sorry, one of the most legendary RPGs in gaming history. Josh Brown hadn't heard of it this morning.
No.
But yeah, I'm going to talk at him for the rest of the year to make sure he does. But this came from a leaker called Zippo that has a very shaky track record. Occasionally they're right about stuff, but the timing on it sometimes points to like, did that thing get officially announced? And then they announced something or whatever. Point being that there's a potential of a Chrono Trigger remake. Another one that's more likely is a new 2D Mario game. This comes from leaker Puro, who was correct about Sonic Superstars and Metroid Prime Remastered before they were officially announced. So it seems like their track record is more solid. They mentioned the next Mario game will not be one of these new Super Mario Brothers games, but just the next 2D Mario, which is really, really cool, considering they teased that in Mario Odyssey, all those various levels that were in 2D. I don't think it'll be an old school NES type thing, but I think it could look cool. Zippo as well mentioned a handful of GameCube games coming to Switch, including Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, but that's something that's been talked about for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Everyone thought it would come alongside the 35th anniversary.
Yeah,
it was the most obvious thing
to
do, and they just wouldn't do it. They did the Mario All-Stars collection, which was available for like 2 months, and then they pulled it back. It was always obvious to do more stuff with Zelda's 35th anniversary, where 2 years later, we also had producer Eiji Aonuma saying they didn't have anything else to do for Zelda's 35th anniversary in terms of Zelda games, but it's been 2 years, so maybe.
I can't believe I bought that All-Stars collection, you know. I was swindled in with the artificial scarcity of that thing.
You really were.
And I haven't even played those games. I played about 4 hours of Mario 64 and didn't play Sunshine and didn't say Galaxy.
Like it. Oh,
what a waste of money that was. Still, this sounds exciting.
Yeah.
I have been looking forward to the HD remasters of those Zelda games for a long time as someone who was only really got into Zelda with Breath of the Wild and then jumped into a few other games afterwards. Like, those are the games that people talk about.
We need to knock Skyward Sword off your top spot.
I love Skyward Sword. It's not my top Zelda. Don't let him convince you that I ever said that. But I do actually really love Skyward Sword. But maybe that's just because I've not played these games,
that's
Scott.
The thing. I guess we'll see what happens. Overall, I'm just hoping that we get something from Nintendo. It's very much the showcase season right now, and they would fit nicely in there.
What would make it a direct to remember?
The Chrono Trigger thing. Just cool. Chrono Trigger. If everyone who's played Chrono Trigger knows why it's a big deal. I said it was a legendary RPG. It's literally made by some of the pillars of the JRPG genre, including Nobuo Uematsu, including Hironobu Sakaguchi. It's a big, big deal. And if they can make a version of that available on Switch, and if it's done in the HD 2D style, like Octopath Traveler or Triangle Strategy, it's literally a dream idea. It's one of those things that comes around when leaks do the rounds, because it's so perfect, and it would have people like me bouncing off the walls. So I'm looking forward to it. Even just the idea of it has got me very happy. Final news story is Final Fantasy XVI's pre-orders picking up massively. They've skyrocketed to the millions, as producer Naoki Yoshi P. Yoshida said that the demo itself has been downloaded millions and millions of times. This kind of fixes the internal leaked conversation within Square Enix, where they said that Final Fantasy XVI's pre-orders were soft compared to Final Fantasy 15. Obviously, 16 for now is a timed exclusive on PlayStation, so it made sense that the pre-orders would be less, but this demo has been received incredibly well. I don't know about you guys, but it's been all over our social feeds for the last couple of weeks. I can also speak to it myself. It's pretty damn good.
It's got me so excited for the game, and I've not even played it because I don't, okay, my thing with demos is that I never want a slice of something before the main course. I'd rather just take the main course, you know what I mean? But I love that this demo is out there. I think demos are a great thing for the industry, and the industry needs more of them, and this is great proof. You know, when the Final Fantasy trailers were doing the rounds, you had a bunch of different factions. People who were really looking forward to the new take on the franchise, people who were lamenting the lack of the classic battle system or turn-based combat in party systems. Exactly, you know, and rightfully so. It was a big departure. But I think the best marketing for a game, any game, is, if it's good, the ability to play it. Just put it in front of people, allow it to change their minds. You know, trailers can do a lot, but they can only do so much. You can't get a literal feel for how a game plays until you have it in your hands. So the fact that this has come out and it seems to be incredible, people are loving it. It's made naysayers true believers. Like, make more demos. This is an example of how they work and why people won't just, you know, play the demo and say, no, I've got my fill. I don't want to buy the main game, which was the argument for many, many years.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like across the 2010s, like across the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One generation, demos just went away. Obviously, the Xbox Live Arcade was a big deal on the 360, but that one of the mandates there was that a game had to have a demo. And I feel like across the 2010s, various producers, the console manufacturers, the console publishers were just like, what if we just don't give you a demo and capitalize on day one sales, try and capitalize on the marketing and do more blind faith purchases? Obviously, quite a lot of them have failed. And I think that this was always a fundamental part of the industry. And I'm just glad that you've got the likes of Square Enix and Capcom as well with their Resident Evil demos, just re-embracing that, just saying, here's a slice of finished code and just go experience what you'll be buying and then give us money. It's clearly working.
It clearly is. And I think, you know, it's funny that you mentioned this game and the Capcom games, which everyone loved as well. You know, I can see why publishers won't make demos. I mean, imagine if a demo for Redfall came out before Redfall actually dropped. People would realize that game was broken. But when you are confident in your product, it makes sense to put one out because it can do no harm in my eyes, especially if it's a game like Final Fantasy 16, which is apparently going to be, you know, 100 plus hours and full of content. Getting a slice of that is only going to make people more excited if it is good and if it hooks them right away, which it seems to have done, judging by these pre-order numbers.
Yeah, I hope that this stuff internally in the various conversations that happen between developers, publishers, whatever, in terms of the planning stages, gives power to the developers to say, look, give us more time, let us work on, because it used to always be a vertical slice of the game, some portion of the game for maybe later in the campaign or whatever it is, to try and show off the best aspects of a game. That didn't line up with the way that the developers were making the thing, so they had to prioritize something else, and it was all a bit of a mess. Another reason why they went away. But I feel like overall, there's a way to do it. There's clearly a way to do it. And if that means giving power to the devs to push back release cycles, release dates, so they can turn something around and have a demo ready for the people, this is only a good thing. So I think this sounds pretty good. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. What do you want to see from the Nintendo Direct, etc. I forgot how many things we talked about. It's very everyone in this room. 3 whole things. But I've been Scott Taylor from WhatCulture.com. That's been Josh Brown.
I certainly have been Josh Brown from WhatCulture.com. Bye-bye.
Bye.